Welcome, everybody, to Mindset Live. This is your host, Professor Nez. How's everybody doing out there? Today, we are talking about perspectives. And just give me a second to test everything out. A little bit early right now. Good to see you guys. Come on in. Let's see how this looks right now. I'm going to go live on Facebook shortly. Welcome to the replay. Good to see you guys. Facebook Live. This is your host, Professor Nez. We are talking about mindsets. And so you just want to make that clear a little bit. It's a little bit of a lag here. Okay. Come on in and join us. Those of you that know me and know of our programs here on Professor Nez, the business page, you know that we have two live stream shows that we do weekly. Monday Mindset, which this is a show which is just a conversation. It's just a conversation. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychoanalyst or psychologist or clinician. Full disclosure, full disclaimer, none of my advice or none of this conversation should be taken as medical advice. This is just merely a conversation. I am a writing professor. I am an educator, and I have been doing this. Hey, Keith, good to see you. I have been doing this. How's the quality on that side, Keith? Let me know, please. It doesn't look good on this side. Just to kind of give you a little brief background, my story, in case you're new here, I have been one who has battled depression and really severe anxiety as a young man, which is what all my work is about and my book is about. And I've studied the mind for about 28 years, both from the East and the West. And a lot of, when I say East and West, I mean, hey, Barb, good to see you. When I say East and West, I mean, from the Western mindset of, cognitive behavioral therapy, and exposure therapy. And, even I've studied pharmacology too, but again, I'm not a clinician. And then from the East, studying practices of mindfulness, self-inquiry, self-investigation, and much, much more. Thank you so much. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate that. Today's show, yes, Barb, today's show is about perspectives. And I can't think of anything more appropriate in this session. And, this wasn't something that I you guys know this isn't something that's happenstance or that something I just go live. I do that. I do a lot of happenstance lives and a lot of impromptu lives, but this is a planned weekly show, Mindset Live, of bringing, it's just a conversation, how to bring a little more humanness into this digitalness. And I think that if you're not aware of who you are, if you're not cognizant of your inner game and you're focusing too much on your outer game, your opportunity to be more human and to really even be successful in anything that you do can be stifled. So thinking about this topic today in relation to news that my wife and I received last night, I don't want to bring anybody down this Monday morning, but I think it's important to address this because it's so parallels what we're talking about today. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. So perspective, which I think is one of the most amenable and practical and really self-healing practices that one can adopt, and a mindset that I think is crucial to everything that you do, and understanding where you are, what's happening to you, what's happened in the past, how to make sense of things, with all application towards moving forward and progressing forward. perspective is something that I'd like to discuss today. And news got to us last night. One of my wife's childhood friends was in a tragic car accident last night. And she left a loving husband, a loving family, and she just recently had a 10-month-old. She has a 10-month-old baby, so she just recently had a child, and she was only 33 years old, very young, just out of nowhere. Just out of nowhere. And what was so, I mean, beyond words. I mean, words just can't even describe. There's no way to console. There's no way to even try to logify, what happened. Just complete tragedy, and very, very sad. And my wife and I are just floored, devastated, especially my wife, who grew up with this individual. And she was just a beautiful young mother, and just caring, and all the superlatives that you could even imagine. And I think that this session, when we talk about perspective, I think I think putting things in perspective it's everything. I mean, this is what this show, I'm hoping the power of this show really entails. What the power of these streams, right? And these videos, I hope that's what they entail, is this ability to look at things from a different point of view. These look at the bigger picture, to look at what really matters, what's really important. And, after hearing this news, tragic news of what happened to my wife's friend, guys, we gotta understand what's really important. It's important to be aware. It's important to remind ourselves. That's what I want this to really be all about. It's just a reminder. I call my YouTube channel The Great Remembrance. I'm not here to teach anything. This is not, Mindset Live is not a show to teach you anything. This is a show where we discover. And by discovery, I mean you're reminded. You're reminded of things that we overlook, things that we forget. It's so easy to get caught up in minute, insignificant, silly things every single day. Even adults, even grown-ass men and women, right? We're susceptible to the game. We're susceptible to drama, little itty-bitty fragments of drama that just infect us and really occupy a lot of our time. And it's very, very easy to lose sight. It's very, very easy to overlook what's really, really important. And that is, I think, keeping perspective is about looking at things from a broader point of view, looking at the other person's point of view. We're talking about empathy too. We're talking about embracing somebody else's perspective so that we can fully understand them. If there's anything that I want this to be about, what I want mindset to be all about, is understanding. Really the basis of all communication, really the basis of all, problems in our society, in our life. I think, especially our inner life and our family life and our personal life and our professional life, we misunderstand so much because we're not aware. And this dude right here likes to jump on all the little itty bitty critters of drama that infect us from day to day. It does. It loves that stuff. It loves that stuff. Perspective. Time. This has a lot to do with time, doesn't it? How much time do you think you have? Where are you spending your time? What are you placing your attention on? Is it really that important? What's important? These are questions. This is what I'm hoping mindset is about. And by the way, this is Professor Nez is not a guru. I'm furthest thing from a guru, furthest thing from an expert. The whole purpose of Mindset Live, the whole purpose of this session and all of these sessions is to just add some conversation about the inner game, add some conversation about being more human in a more and more increasing digital world that we're living in. I think there's room for that conversation. I think it's really important. I love to have fun. Believe me, I love to enjoy myself. I love to, thank you, Barb. I love to, be silly and, I love to talk about social media. I love to talk about a lot of things. I love to talk about marketing. I love to talk about consulting, but this is something that's so important to me because it's really at the epicenter of who I am and what I'm all about. And my anxiety, my fear, my depression, have all been really wonderful teachers. And I love to share. I love to share and inspire. When God calls our loved ones home, accepting the occasions as an opportunity to awaken ourselves to the blessing. Absolutely, Barb. Very well said. The ultimate UFC fighter of all time is Time. Time is going to beat the living crap out of Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Nobody can beat Time. Time is the ultimate UFC fighter. Time is the ultimate sovereign. It defeats us all eventually. We can fight it, right? We can fight it as long as we want to, but it will always win. Okay, it doesn't matter if you cryogenically freeze yourself. It doesn't matter what medical science brings on. Time eventually wins. Even the earth, even the sun can't beat time. Who knows? Maybe even the universe can't beat time. So when we engage in these, and what do I mean by these little itty bitty dramas? Some of you might say, well, what if I like the dramas? What if I have fun with the little itty bitty dramas? Yeah, of course, that's fine. That there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're causing suffering to yourself and you're causing suffering to your loved ones and your family, and that suffering is based on something that is so insignificant, for example, he said, she said type of stuff, not getting enough likes and followers. A lot of us care about that. I'm not immune to that. I care about that as well. You know what I mean? That's just a small example, the way somebody looked at me, or the way somebody treated me, or somebody didn't treat me the way that I should be treated, or why did that waiter not refill my drink fast enough? These little itty bitty insignificant things, they consume us if we're not aware. If we're not aware, they consume us. They absolutely consume us. If you wouldn't mind sharing this out, I would really appreciate it. Barb, I think you're a member of Nez Nation. If you wouldn't mind sharing this to our group, I'd really appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I have a perfect example. So, before we got this amazing, tragic news last night, my wife and I were discussing petty things, really petty things. I mean, in comparison, and I'm not a big fan of comparing things, but I love what Barb said. And I think that, these incidents that happen in our lives, our perspective, how we look at them, how we interpret them can really shape our reality and shape our interactions with others, right? We can look at an incident like what happened last night to my wife's friend and think all is lost. Everything is, and it's easy to think that way. It's easy to have that perspective and be really, everything is futile and there's no point in trying and there is no God and there is no, it's very, and I don't judge anybody. I don't judge anybody for having those perspectives. I'm the least judgmental person on the planet. I don't judge anybody. I don't, if I seem like I do sometimes, it's really not serious at all. Or we can look at that incident and try to have a broad larger perspective about our own lives, about our interaction with our fellow human beings, about what's going on in our kids' lives, our friends' lives, our families' lives, and really take stock and maybe audit ourselves and what have we been placing a lot of our attention on? Don't forget, everybody, your number one golden currency is your attention. What you put your attention on, you put power to. What you give attention to, you give power to. Thank you, Barb. But it's easy to get gobbled up. It's easy to get gobbled up by the petty, by the insignificant, by the useless, which drains us of our power because our attention is so fragmented and our attention is placed in all these areas that we're not even aware. We're not even aware. We're just going through the motions. And then you wake up and you're 90 and you wonder what the hell happened. And it's too late for woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's just too late for woulda, shoulda, coulda. What's really important? What are you placing your attention on? This is at the zenith of what this show is all about. This session is all about perspective. You know, in the words of Bob Dylan, this has a lot to do with gratitude as well. In the words of the great singer Bob Dylan, you know, sometimes you think you've lost everything. You find you can always lose a little bit more. Sometimes you think you've lost everything. And then you realize you could always lose a little bit more. Perspective. Perspective, that's key. You know, it's funny. It's very rare that I'm at a loss for words, but I'm kind of struggling right now to find words because, you know, we're so devastated by what happened last night. And I actually had to postpone last week's show, and I'm trying to be consistent and I'm trying to, you know, create this baby that I think is this broadcast, which is so precious to me, which is so sweet to me, which is so important to me, because it's literally my entire purpose. It's literally my entire vision for what I want to contribute, you know, to this thing called LIFE, which is, you know, to share what I've learned by going through all the debilitating depression, anxiety, and trauma of this dude right here, and how I made the largest journey of my life, which was a journey of only 2 or 3 feet from this dude to this dude. I'm pointing to my heart. To me, that's the greatest spiritual journey, if you want to call it that, is traveling from this dude to this dude. And those of you who've been paying attention, those of you who've been watching, those of you who've been really digesting the pointings understand this. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate that. It was really my wife's, I didn't really know her. It was really my wife's friend that she grew up with. But, you know, I think it's important that it doesn't, and that actually that shouldn't matter really. You know, again, I love what you said, Barb. It's a way of giving yourself a opportunity, right, to awaken, yeah, to get out of that hypnosis. Um, and no problem, Barb. Thank you so much. And climbing out of this, you know, sort of every day just turns into this blank page. You know, it's just one after the next. We're not aware. We're just going through the motions, going to work, going to school, on social media, same schedule, same this, same that, same interactions. And then it becomes cyclical, it becomes mechanical. And we don't want that, right? I have been making the call to you to leave your mind at the door when you come in here to the broadcast. And I explained this in the last session, in the last broadcast. I want you to leave the past, leave any thought of the past, leave any conditioning, leave all of your presuppositions and your preconceived notions, leave them at the door and come in here fresh and have a fresh perspective. This is linked to perspective because this is really how every single day, every single moment can be absolutely brand new. I think one of the things that plague us when we're unaware and we don't embody perspective is that every single day can feel like the same white page that we're turning over. 2014, 2017, Tuesday, Thursday, fall, spring, summer. They're all just blank white pages that just keep going. And we lose sight of, holy mackerel, I'm alive. Holy mackerel, I've got my loved ones. I've got my health. I can see. I can walk. I have my legs. I can breathe. I can see beauty. I can experience things. That chocolate pecan cake tastes amazing to me. Everything becomes mechanical. We lose that inner child. We lose that inner magic without perspective. And that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. That's why I'm doing this. This is why I'm producing this. This is why I'm spending time with this. It's just as much for me as it is for anybody else. I'm just hoping because the power of conversation, again, I'm not an expert. I'm the furthest thing from an expert. I'm not a guru, nothing like that, right? I've experienced a lot with this dude. I've had a lot of practice with this dude, but I'm the last thing on the planet is me, myself, as an expert. Excellent point. Excellent point by Barb. Barb says, is it not a choice to churn the emotion we do over our losses? Is it not within our power to change our emotions through reflection and conversation? You know, Barb, I've said this before. Somebody who's been in the educational field for, well over 18 years, and somebody who has 3 degrees, compared to the power of those intimate moments, those intimate conversations with inspiring human beings, powerful, present, fully aware human beings, doesn't even come close. Doesn't even come close. I said this in the last session, in the last broadcast. I said that what I feel, again, this is just me, and I love this conversation. I love having this conversation. This is why I love this show so much. This show has a real special place in my heart. I love my talk show and I love my other broadcasts and live streams, but this has a real special place in my heart. Most of us think we have so much power. Most of us think we can shape events and we can control events. I'm not so sure about that, but what I feel really certain of, what I feel very sure of, is that we have our true sovereignty is how we interpret those events and what perspective we bring to those events. That's where really our true sovereignty lies. And absolutely through reflection, through conversation, looking at everything, self-evaluation, self-discovery, what's real, what's important, what should I be paying attention to? And this has to be experiential. This cannot be intellectual. This has to be experiential. Put these tools to practice. Don't just intellectually, compartmentalize them. Yes, I understand this, and then keep going on your mechanical way, right? I'm trying to bring more humanness into this digitalness. Trying to bring more humanness into this digitalness. That's what this show is all about. That's what this broadcast is all about. That's what this session is all about. I tell you what, the first thing that I did, I smacked my lips on my kids, my wife, after, really the just unbelievable annihilation of, remorse and just sadness hit me. As Barb says so wisely, through the reflection and trying to, I felt really lucky. I felt really lucky. I felt really lucky that I had what I have. I really, really feel that way. And this is just a neuroscientific fact. You cannot be stressed out and grateful simultaneously. If you're stressed out, you're not grateful. If you're grateful, you're not stressed out. Being grateful, appreciating, and it can be anything. Just appreciating being alive, just appreciating being able to breathe in oxygen. I mean, the things that we overlook, everything that you touch and see is really miraculous if you have the right perspective. And this is bringing that freshness, bringing that freshness. I mentioned this to my class once. Those of you who know I'm a writing professor. If you just like to take something that we, just for an example of what I'm talking about, just to put it in context, something that we take for granted or something that we overlook the miraculousness of, a tree, right? I mean, a tree. This may sound kooky. This thing that grows out of the earth and just has these amazing myriad branches and strange veiny leaves, and it produces this unbelievable like magic called, oxygen. It consumes our CO2. I mean, that it's miraculous. It's unbelievable. I think our ancestors, you know, I truly feel this way, and this has a lot to do with perspective. Our ancestors and our you know our long history of amazing works of art and writings and teachings and pointings come from this, sort of connectedness with the things around them, their environment, their relational connections and their interpersonal connections and their family and their friends and their communities. I think they really adopted this, and they really understood the power of awareness. And that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about, is awareness. I mean, just a tree. Just look. I want everybody to do this. Go right now and go look at a tree and just marvel. I dare you not to be in awe. Go marvel at, how unbelievably miraculous something that we pass by every single day, a tree. A tree can actually be a great teacher. Now we're really getting kooky, aren't we? What's really important? Time is the ultimate UFC fighter. It defeats us all. What are you paying attention to? Why are you paying attention to it? Isn't this critical thinking? Isn't this discernment? Isn't this self-investigation? Isn't this what we should be teaching our kids? Isn't this what we should be talking about, instead of, Trump's latest haircut, or, Kardashian's latest internet breakage, and there's a place for all that. I'm not judging. There's a place for all that, but there's a place for this too. That's my point. That's my advocacy. There's a place for this too. And I'm passionate to join the conversation. I hope you are too. Mindset Mondays, every single Monday, 9 a.m. Mindset Live. Yes, Barb, excellent comment. That's exactly, I'm going to pin that. That's a beautiful comment. That's exactly what I do daily. I walk by the trees and examine the trunks closely, take photos to study later. So much of our history and our future is revealed through trees. Yes. And here's what I mean, Barb, you'll get a kick out of this. Thank you so much for your comment, Barb. I really appreciate you being here. And I really want to just take this second to thank you for creating a really cool Facebook group. And she's a huge advocate for live streaming, those of you on YouTube. One of my favorite writers, Barb, you'll get a kick out of this. One of my favorite writers, Herman Hesse, once had a brilliant observation that trees are the ultimate teacher because they teach the value of being undeterred by particulars. Trees are amazing teachers. With the right perspective, Nez Nation, everything is a teacher. I once had a master teach me or show me, because I don't believe in teaching. Professor Nez, what do you mean? Aren't you a writing professor? I don't believe in teaching. Let me say it again. I don't believe in finger pointing and saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. Most people that do that, I tend to recoil from that. And I just want to go, ugh. But if you inspire me, I do believe in inspiring people. If you inspire me, I'm a slave for life. I'll follow you anywhere if you inspire me. I once had a great master point to me and say, everything is a teacher. Every mosquito bite, every traffic jam, every shoelace coming untied, every experience, everything is a teacher with the right perspective. That's what this show is all about. Everything. Thank you, Barb. Absolutely. And isn't this funny? You know, like attracts like. Another thing that I'm hoping that this show can really engender and this show can cultivate is trust. You guys have trust in this thing called life. This thing called life brought you here. What are you worried about? What are you so concerned about? You don't have to think you must have your hands on all the levers, right? You don't have to think that you have to make sure that every single aspect, you know, has your touch, has your, you know, stamp on it. And that if you take your eyes off the ball for a second, or you take your hand off the lever for a second, everything's just going to fall apart. It's not like that. Trust this thing called life. Trust this thing called life. It brought you here. It brought the trees here. It brought the sun, the stars. It brought everything here. It brought Barb here. It brought Keith here watching on YouTube. It brought everybody here. Trust it. There's no need to be so erratic, frantic, because you're just going to drive yourself crazy. First of all, you don't have that kind of control. Nobody bestowed that kind of control and power unto you. And history has shown us people who have tried to envelop too much power or tried to exercise too much power, right? What happens to them eventually? All you have to do is go look at history and see what's happened to them. The metaphor that I love, and I think this would be a great way to sort of wrap it up here. The metaphor that I love is what I mean by trusting life. It's like you're on this giant aircraft carrier and you're rowing like crazy. Just let the aircraft carrier do its job. It's carrying you where you need to go. It's guiding you where you need to go. And this is what perspective is all about. I mean, if you think about everything that's happened in your life, how much of it was happenstance, just seemed to unfold naturally, and how much of it was actually in your complete. I'm not saying that we're like, you know, we're choiceless. I'm not saying that we're, you know, just kind of automatons, you know, sort of scurrying in the wind or anything like that. No. Don't get me wrong. Let me be clear. But understanding, being aware, and trusting this thing called life, that not everything needs to be sort of huddled in your satchel, so to speak. You don't have to crowd everything. Being a parent, I know it's strong. There's a strong desire to control everything Your kid's life, you just want the best for them. You know, my parents as well. I'm sure your parents as well. Perspective. What's really important? What's happening? Where's your attention? What are you focusing on? Why are you focusing on it? Does it deserve your attention? These are questions. Let them marinate. This is not a show about answers. Okay. I want to be very clear. This is not a show that's like, listen to Professor Nez, listen to Mindset Live, and you're going to get all the answers. Not even close. If anything, it's just a conversation. If anything, you know, it's about producing probably more confusion, actually. No. But it's a conversation, and a conversation doesn't necessarily have answers. But it can trigger something, it can start something, it can put in motion something in you. And I think one of the great things about being a human being is we have such creative questions and we have such boundless imagination and strivings. And just getting that ball rolling can be a beautiful thing. So marinate on these questions. Let them marinate in you and let life take over. Trust life. Trust life. Perspective. I want you to share with me what your perspectives are. I want you to share with me in the comments below what your thoughts are on the show. Are there any topics? Are there any ideas? Are there anything at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave those in the comments below, and I would love to check them out and see what you guys are thinking. I'm very, very curious. And don't forget, guys, every single Monday, Mindset Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, 12 p.m. Eastern, we're coming at you. We're coming at you live. And I'd love to see you guys be a part of the broadcast and watching on the replay. Thank you so much. And this is your host, Professor Nez. I really appreciate you guys watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll see you guys next week.